We begin 2021 with optimism, hope, and some serious prayer. The focus this year is getting town and country approval. The current milestone is land classification and acquisition. Today, we tackle that first milestone head-on with legal advice. Welcome to episode 1, season 3, the My Green Home Lawrence project. Ms Carrmuddeen is an attorney at law, certified mediator and notary public. She was called to the Trinidad and Tobago Bar in 1997 and is also admitted to practice in Guyana and the British Virgin Islands. Ms Carrmuddeen specializes in property law and estate law. She was contracted in November 2019 to assist in the legal acquisition of the land at Blue Basin Road in Diego Martin, which was willed to me by my father. Please join me in welcoming Ms Faikah Carrmuddeen. The camera is not there.
Okay.
Make yourself
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Right.
Before we start, I would just like to give a disclaimer that anything that I say here is not intended to be legal advice.
Okay.
It is just for general information purposes.
Understood.
So that if the audience has any specific issues that they would like to deal with, they need to seek the advice of an attorney.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Faikah. So let's get right into it. Definitions: freehold, leasehold, registered, unregistered. We have all these different terminologies within the legal system of acquiring land. I thought it was really easy because it was in Dad's will that it would just be left to me. But give us some explanation with regards to all these different definitions.
Okay, so freehold and leasehold land relates to the way in which someone owns the land and the nature and extent of the interest in that land. Whereas registered and unregistered land refers to the system that is used by our land registry to record title to lands. So freehold land is land that is owned absolutely by an individual. That means that he owns it outright. He owns it for an indefinite period of time so that he can will it to his children and it can pass down the generations. You have absolute control over freehold land. You can deal with it how you wish, subject of course to the general laws of the land in terms of town and country planning approvals with respect to and guidelines and the regulations that they set down for their development plans for the land in the entire country.
Okay.
Leasehold land, on the other hand, is where you own a parcel of land or land and house, real estate basically, for a limited period of time, for a term of years. So it's not unlimited in duration. In Trinidad, we have lands and real estate being owned for 30 years, for 99 years, 199 years, 999 years.
What would give the difference in the terms of like between 30 years and 99 years? What would classify the difference and why?
Well, actually, really, 30 years you would find more with state lands.
Okay.
They give you a 30-year period of time and maybe with an option to renew for a further 30 years.
Okay.
Right? And then when you have private developments, well, it depends on how long the developer wants to give you. So it's really a personal decision as to the time frame.
The time frame.
Right? But 999-year leasehold, we actually call is as good as a freehold.
999
999 years, right? Yeah, because I mean, you can will it as well and pass it down to generation. Yes, of course. I mean, it's 9 centuries, right? So yes, you can will it and pass it and so on. But with leasehold, you have some restrictions. So, for example, you may have to pay an annual land rent to your lessor or landlord. And there are covenants in your lease that you have to comply with, certain obligations like you have to paint your house every 3 to 5 years, and these kinds of things. So that's the difference between freehold and leasehold. So that's the way in which the extent of your title, the nature of your title. In terms of registered and unregistered land, that is how your title is now recorded in the Registrar General's Department of our Ministry of Legal Affairs, right? Unregistered land, which we ordinarily know as common law land or old law land. It is a system whereby events that happen with land or documents relating to land are registered in multiple registers or books or records. So when you are tracing title to land, you have to have reference to several different registers. So it's a bit of a cumbersome procedure to pull it all in to get your abstract of title, where you can trace how this land has been dealt with over the years and who has the title, etc. With registered land, it's called the Torrens system of registration. It's actually named for its inventor, Sir Robert Torrens. He says, let's seek to simplify the registration of land and the way in which we can search title. And that provides, the registered system provides for every parcel of land to have a certificate of title on which all the dealings with that land must be recorded. So when you're searching title to land, you can have reference to one document. So you don't have to go all over, right? So it's a simpler way to do your title searches and register ownership. That title is considered an indefeasible title, meaning once it's there and it's recorded, it cannot be challenged, it cannot be defeated, it cannot be made void by anything, any error or omission that happened in the past. So it's there, and our Real Property Act actually provides for, it's in effect a title that's guaranteed by the state. So the Real Property Act provides that if somebody is fraudulently deprived of their land, they can claim compensation from the Land Assurance Fund, which is a state-run compensatory initiative.
Wow. So, what you just gave me was the definition of a proper deed and title, correct? Correct.
Actually, I wanted to show you what a certificate of title looks like under the registered system of land. You have, this is the document, every parcel of land having a certificate of title. This is the document which is called the certificate of title. And this is where you will have the first owner named. It will describe the land, etc. And then on the back is where all the transactions that historically happened with the land are endorsed. Understood. So this is the document you will be referred to determine exactly what has happened to the land and who is the owner.
So will you have a document? So you wouldn't have a document like that if the land is unregistered?
No, there's no document like this if there's unregistered land.
So this is strictly for registered land? For
registered land. An unregistered land, you have what is known as a deed. And that is what most people know about. Most people know about that they have a deed for the land. So even if they own registered land, they always think of, oh, I have a deed. But your deed is actually, it's not a deed, it's a certificate of title.
Understood.
Right?
Understood. So here we are today discussing how to overcome this major milestone of legally owning the land that was left to me in my father's will. So Faikah, should people make a will?
I encourage every adult who owns any type of property to make a will. And when I talk about property, I don't just mean land and house. I mean cash. I mean bank accounts. I mean insurance policies. There is artwork. You may have a book collection. You may have jewelry. So there are many items of value that you may want to determine how you leave that property and to whom you leave that property. A will is basically a statement of your wishes as to who and how you want your belongings to be distributed upon your death. So that It is important, especially if you have minor children, for example, you can appoint guardians for them in your will. And what a relief, so that you know that your children are cared for and maintained if, God forbid, you're no longer here.
Understood.
And if you don't do a will, then the law dictates how your belongings are to be distributed. And then that may not accord with what you wanted. So, people are sometimes kind of wary of making their wills because then they have to face the fact of death.
The reality, yeah.
But death is a part of life.
Yeah.
And we need to plan for it.
Yeah, we should, definitely. Okay, so let's pause for a minute and do some research. We go to Frederick Street, Port of Spain. This is where our research via Maps and Surveys Division begins. We found out that the land is not registered. What we also do know is that the land is situated within a community of regularized squatters. My dad, when he was alive, was one of them. So based on the legal advice, I have decided to file a statutory declaration with the Commissioner of State Lands with the hope of being regularized. So let's go back to Ms Carrmuddeen for her to explain this a lot better. I know of the squatter regularization program. Can you give me some more information on that?
Sure. The Squatter Regularization Program is a program that was implemented by the government of Trinidad and Tobago to seek to improve the living conditions of people who were illegally occupying state lands. And this does not only mean with respect to the physical amenities in the areas of squatting, which were actually defined in the Act, but also in relation to eventually getting them some security of tenure by giving them an actual ownership interest in the land. So the program is conducted and overseen by the Land Settlement Agency, which is itself a creature of the State Land Regularization of Tenure Act. And it involves two activities. One is regularization of infrastructure, so establishment or improvement of roads, drains, water, electricity to those areas.
Okay.
And as well, the regularization of title.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deed. Ownership.
Eventually.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's a process.
That's correct. It's a three-stage process.
Okay.
So the first step was that when the Act came into force in 1998, all persons who were occupying state lands illegally were able to apply for what is called a certificate of comfort, which basically gave them an assurance from the government that they will not be evicted from the lands.
They wouldn't be evicted.
They wouldn't be evicted from the lands. It is a personal interest, and what I mean by personal interest, it is not something that you can will or sell or deal with. It is personal to you, that you have the assurance of the government that you will not be evicted because you were there prior to 1998, you qualified, you would have met the criteria for qualifying for a certificate of comfort, and you've received it. So you can rest comfortably that you're not going to be evicted.
Okay, fair enough.
So I was going on to tell you, sorry.
That's all right, you could.
I was going on to say, so that was the first step. And the applications had to be made between the 1st of January 1998 and the 27th of October 2000. So there was a time frame for applications by these occupants for their certificates of comfort. So that's the first stage in the process.
Okay.
The second stage is that once you hold a certificate of comfort, you're entitled to the issue by the state of a statutory lease for a period of 30 years. So you have now a high level of security of tenure. You have a statutory lease, but you have to, within that 30 years, pay for the land which you have been occupying at a subsidized purchase price. So I think that was 25% of the actual market value. So you have that 30 years. So that was the second stage. And then the third and final stage is once you finally paid off for the land, you will get a deed of lease from the state for that land for 199 years.
Okay.
And that's the squatter regularization program.
I thank you, Ms. Carrmuddeen. The information you have shared with us today has been extremely helpful, and I give my sincere thanks.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me.
The plans to build have now officially been put on hold. Notwithstanding, the architectural designs have been updated a few times between November 2019 and today. My goal is to build a home that is modern, luxurious, and exists in harmony with the environment. I am now one step closer to achieving this goal. Thank you for tuning in. So that's a wrap. Episode 1, Season 3. Thank you to all my viewers. And remember to hit that bell notification so you don't miss my next episode on the 21st of April. I'd be talking to the contracted land surveyors from GeoDiscover Limited. And as we say in Trinidad and Tobago, laters.